All right.
You're not planning on doing any real work today wearing that white shirt today, are you?
I brought a shirt to change it.
You probably should. Yeah.
I did. Well, I'm going to paint.
You're taking pictures. That's real work.
Well, I wanted to change it up. I always wear black for our videos, so I had to change it up.
All right, so what's today?
September 11th.
18 years ago.
Yeah.
All right. So where were you?
I was sitting down at Southfields. It was my very first in-service class for the county police, and we're sitting in the middle of class. You know, class had started at 8 a.m. Of course, we're sitting there, you know, table like this, taking notes, or we're listening to some lecture. And I remember my beat partner was sitting next to me. We still had the old pagers where somebody could page it and then put a text message across the pager.
Right.
And my pager went off. I pull the pager up, and the pager says, a plane just hit the World Trade Center. And it was a page from my wife, who was at work.
Right.
And they had a TV at their office. Of course, we didn't have a TV on. We were in class. And I kind of nudged my beat partner and showed him the text. And he read it. He's like, you know, what do you think's going on? What happened? I was like, I don't know. So I put it back in there, and just a couple minutes later, somebody came to the classroom door and threw open the door. And, hey, y'all need to come in here and watch this. A plane's wrecked into the World Trade Center. Of course, at that time, it was just, you know, a wreck.
Right.
So we go into this lounging area that we had a TV in at the academy there, and we start watching. Everybody's glued to the TV, and you know, there was only a couple dozen people there for the class that day, and of course, we're all huddled around it watching this thing, and of course, we're speculating what happened. You know, was it foggy? Did the pilot make some error?
Right.
What happened? You know, and nobody was really even at that time yet thinking, oh, this is a terrorist attack. We're under attack as a nation. And of course, then the second plane hit, and they were talking about the Pentagon, and of course, they didn't have footage of that. But yeah, I was out at Southfields. Where were you at?
I was at where I was working at that time in Valley Station. I was in the office. Had two secretaries that were working there with me at the time, and we didn't have a radio on, television, do office work. And one of my friends called me and said, hey, his wife just called him saying that you need to turn on the TV or something because a plane just hit the World Trade Center. And, I grew up in that part of the country. I remember when the World Trade Center was being built.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I remember we would go there for high school trips, when I went to New Jersey.
What time?
Oh, that was in the 70s.
Okay.
70s. And when I first got out of the Marine Corps, I worked at a gun store at that time in Sterling, New Jersey, a place called Sarco Incorporated. And we had a business partner who used to go all through Europe looking for military surplus stuff. And then when he would find it, he'd ship it back through the customs right there. And the customs was located in the bottom of the World Trade Center.
Is that where Port Authority is?
Port Authority, yeah.
Okay.
So I was tasked to drive from New Jersey to the Port Authority there in the bottom of the World Trade Centers to pick up whatever it was that they had bought.
So you've been there several times.
I was there several times, yes.
Okay. I was never.
So
there.
we're talking about the late 70s, early 80s. Okay, so that's when I was there. And I was just
I was never actually at the World Trade. I saw. I was to New York before this, and I saw him, but I was never actually there.
Yeah, no.
When you stood at the bottom of them,
I just drove in. I never even got out.
Oh, wow.
Drove. Just huge. You could. It was just so overwhelming. But I remember that, and of course, what I did was I only lived a mile from where I worked, so I jumped in my car and I drove down to the house, and I had another associate with me. We both sat there and we watched the footage, the first plane, and then we didn't see the first plane, but we got there for the second plane, and World Trade, the Empire State Building had been hit before by small, private aircrafts.
right.
I don't know if it was commercial, I can't remember, but just to see that, and no one exactly knew what was going on, and we were just so taken up with it. We actually drove up on Dixie to Skyline Chili, which was used to be there at Dixie Manor.
Mhm.
And we sat down and got lunch, and they had brought out a TV and sat up on the counter, and everybody in there just eating, just watching, and nobody said a word. And it was a little while later, my dad was still alive, and I had family up there. And the biggest thing we remember when President Bush said no aircraft fly at all,
Right.
just how silent it was. It was eerie.
Yeah, it was. We had friends that were, traveling, and they were stuck at places and different things. We at the police department, we had a couple that had went overseas to adopt a child, and they were coming back, and they were due to land, somewhere on the west coast, and they ended up having to land on an island somewhere out in the Pacific, one of the islands, and stay there for like 3 or 4 days before they were able to actually return back.
It changed the world.
It changed the world. It changed America. It changed the world. It changed me. It changed you.
That's how I'm here now, and a lot of what I do now is related to that stuff. I mean, I said it before, I grew up hunting and shooting, and for me it was just fun, never even really thought about firearms anymore, just for enjoyment and pleasure. Now you're on the other side of 9/11,
Right.
and with all, the craziness that goes on, both foreign and domestic.
That's right.
Let's face it, I mean, it's changed the complexity of our country, the ethnicity of our country.
Well, and even just as far as in your everyday life, traveling to and from, especially you go out and get on an airplane, the whole TSA and all that, it's really.
New driver's license, all that stuff you have to go through?
Yeah, that's right. Those are coming out too.
So it's, I think though the thing that bothers me the most is when we went through all that stuff. A lot of people live their lives like nothing happened.
Right.
And maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. I mean, that's the resiliency that hey, they attacked us, we were attacked, yet we went on with our daily lives because we didn't want terrorism to have an effect on us. But we sent off a lot of people over there to the Middle East.
Yeah.
And they felt like they were, thankfully, I grew up during Vietnam. So how we treat our vets today is not the way we treated them.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's right.
And I don't want us to ever forget what less than 1% of people today are serving. Right. And they're still in harm's way. And a lot of them we'll never hear about for another 50 years because it's all secret. It'll come out, but I won't be here. Maybe your grandkids will be here and they'll find out about it, and then they'll look back and say, wow, that goes back to 9/11.
Right.
So.
I'll tell you what, we'll wrap up. Remember today, take time, think about those folks. Put in the comments down below where you were, what your thoughts were, what your feelings were that day. Let us know your story. And until next week, think about it.